What was the most legendary thing a student did at school? My friend once was pissed off at the rest of us guys, 5 of us. He chased us into the bathroom because he wanted to be a tough guy and thought one of us was hiding in a stall. He says, "Peekaboo, I see you," and kicks the stall door in on a teacher we all knew, taking a crap. The teacher said, "I see you too, Nathan, now close the door. I will die the day I forget about that, lol." Teacher everyone hated just cause he was a pure bully. We had a fair snowfall and he was on yard patrol. This shy kid launched the perfect snowball 40 feet plus and it went in his cup of juice, splashing out and soaking him. Kid went from zero to hero real quick. This kid once brought a backpack full, and I mean completely full of marbles to school. He went to the main staircase near the front up the 3rd floor and dumped the whole bag over the stairwell. How those marbles didn't break the glass trophy case at the bottom is beyond me, but marbles went everywhere. Surprisingly, he never got caught. He either managed to run to one of the stairwells at the end of the hall and get to the bottom before teachers had time to react, or he hid somewhere until the first bell rang. A kid hit the fire alarm when the mayor was visiting our school. For context, we had an assembly the week before where we were specifically told not to hit the fire alarm during the mayor's visit unless there was an actual fire, as it was a common occurrence at our school to just hit the fire alarm whenever. A special needs kid got a 2-day in school suspension because he threw a sharpened pencil into the drop ceiling tile. He saw a friend of mine do it and thought it was the coolest thing ever. A kid on the football team heard about what had happened and protested the suspension directly to the assistant principal. The AS principal stuck firm to his decision and threatened, "And if anyone else gets caught, it will be out of school suspensions." The following Monday the entire 2nd floor was closed down for the morning. Come to find out, the kid and the football team got into the school over the weekend and just blanketed the entire 2nd floor ceiling with sharpened pencils. The video of it was stellar. The senior prank one year was hiring a mariachi band to follow our principal around all day. He loved it, went classroom to classroom so everyone could see it and take pictures, videos and have a fun break from class. A senior prank? Teacher tries to open the door, it does not move. Teacher says he'll ask the maintenance dudes to help open it. While he's away, dude tries to force the door open. Instead falls through the door, as he just creates a hole. Doing so, it does however open the door. Teacher comes back without maintenance guy. Teacher blanks for a moment, then says, "Thanks for opening the door. I'll need to know who to thank." No one answers, but only one dude has pieces of wood in his hair, so he got caught. Someone bought a dead pig and left its parts in several people's car in the middle of summer. No one knew who did it, but each of the targets were notorious bullies and so many of us found it to be great justice. Not mine, but someone superglued the computer mouses to the desks in the computer lab. It was my son. My son did that. He never got caught, just told me long after the fact. Picked up the front end of the tractor, deadlift style, with the teacher sitting in the driver's seat of the tractor. The tractor was part of the ag department. It was a rural school. It was legendarily stupid. We had mandatory swimming classes in my sophomore year of high school. Anyways, 3 days a week, the school was getting bomb threats and all of us would have to leave class and go to the gym. The threats always happened at the same time. This went on for weeks and weeks. It turns out there was this kid who didn't want to swim and who was using a payphone down the block to call in the threats. This was 1985. He got suspended for 2 weeks and had to take gym for summer school. He is a legend to this day, yet I can't remember his name. I went to high school in the early 70s. Our city had just implemented the desegregation of the high schools by closing the only black high school and busing those kids all over the city to the white high schools. Racial tensions were pretty high at my school. Many of the white kids resented having to go to school with black kids, and the black kids were understandably upset at being yanked out of their own high school and bused. It was lunchtime in the cafeteria. I was sitting at the next table over from where a white guy was sitting. I see a black guy walking up to the white kid. He stops in front of the white kid and say, "Hey, honky." The white guy says, "Hey, nig." The whole room got real quiet. I could see kids looking around, trying to decide what to do and where to run or hide, the expectation being that there was about to be a fight. Then both the black guy and white guy bust out laughing and hug each other. The black guy sits down and they eat lunch together. People looked so confused as they couldn't comprehend what just happened. It turns out both guys were in drama class together and had decided to troll everyone. Kid broke into the PA speaker room or whatever it's called, locked himself in and started publicly dismissing everyone's future detention sentences one by one. Then he started to just burp in the mic before we heard the teachers and the principal break in. The principal shouted, "You damn." Then it got cut off. Our grading system is 1, fail, 2, pass, 3, 4, 5, great. One dude stole the diary book where all the grades are written for all students in class. He was failing a lot of stuff, so everybody just presumed he would throw it away or change ones into 2s. He just changed all 3 into hearts and returned it. Madman. Don't really know what happened to him after that. I think he just got some sort of warning but wasn't expelled. In high school, two seniors who had been buds since forever, got into a fight in the hallway in between class periods. What makes it legendary is that they first met in Taekwondo class when they were in kindergarten. Movies just show the performative aspect of martial arts. This was just they were doing flying kicks at each other. It was so brutal. The teachers didn't dare to break them up. They only stopped because they got tired from beating each other senseless. Smashed a window with his fist. We're at a camping trip and the teacher surprised us with a manhunt game. They turned off the lights in the common cabin in the middle of a speech, then informed us that the upperclassmen are outside searching for us and trying to catch us, and we have to run and hide. The kid K took it seriously and smashed the window, got out, and run away. Another kid whipped out a pocket knife. She's a pretty nice person though. Edit, it's in Canada and it's a nib retreat. Suddenly remembered another thing, in the same trip, another kid was looking tired during breakfast. Asked him what happened, turned out he didn't sleep during the night and went out for a walk in the woods after the teacher checked in. It's raining outside, and it's fallen pretty dark in the woods at night. He walked for a whole night and came back for breakfast. And another thing, the same kid who smashed the window was smoking weed in his cabin, or so I've heard. The teacher went to check his cabin at 11 p.m. to see if they're asleep, they're not, and smelt the weed. One teacher commented, "It smells like fish in this cabin." Then promptly left. This is legendary in a bad way. One girl from my wife's high school stole a male teacher's pen drive, found a video of him jacking off on the couch with two other guys also jacking off, and sent it around to the whole school. This was in a fairly conservative place and he was not openly gay. He didn't get fired or anything, but she says that he was a really nice fun teacher up until that point and afterwards was dry and grumpy to most of the students. On the one hand, you probably shouldn't bring a file of your amateur porn to your job at the high school. On the other hand, what the student did was harmful and illegal on many different levels. A boy in my year did ketamine before our politics exam and got an A? Edit update, was talking to a friend about this and apparently he spent his entire £4,750 student loan for first year. He left school after 5th year to go to uni, in a couple months. Most of it on drink and drugs. He also ended up studying business. So at least the drug use was still on brand for his study choices. Started masturbating right before a test. Said he needed the post-nut clarity. Teacher didn't punish him because he did it without taking his pee-pee out and didn't want him expelled. He's forever known as the mathsturbator. Maybe not legendary, but an interesting, and funny, experiment. There were 3 high schools in my hometown, 2 of them, both named after famous historical figures of said town, were in a sort of rivalry with each other, nothing serious, but the students would casually trash-talk the other school a lot. Mostly in good fun. Each school had a display case with a bust of their respective historical namesake somewhere in the building. They were just some decoration, object that you would pass by every single day and pay little attention to. So we figured we'd test how little attention people actually paid these things. So one night, a few buddies of mine and I got together. Most of us were from my school, but we had a few inside men from the other one as well. We split up into 2 teams, got access to both buildings simultaneously, picked open the very cheap locks on the display cases, grabbed the busts and switched them. Keep in mind, these schools were not that close to one another, and none of us had been old enough to drive at that point, so we had to carry these fricking limestone busts through half the town. We then locked the busts into the display cases again and left. We had managed completely non-destructive entry to both schools, so nobody ever found out. It took almost an entire school year for anyone to notice. To this day, no teacher has ever found out who was responsible. But no damage was done, so they didn't try too hard to figure it out. We had 2 pretty epic senior pranks in my HS days. The first was somebody replaced the tape of the morning announcements with a close-up of a hardcore anal porn scene. At first I thought maybe my homeroom teacher was a perv, but turns out it was broadcast throughout the school. Then my senior year a fellow student got the bright idea to dress up as a gorilla and go up on the roof of the school with a bag of bananas. The SWAT team was called in and it was kinda scary seeing guys with assault rifles outside our classroom window. Then someone told me it was just so-and-so on the roof in a gorilla costume. He got in a lot of trouble considering he was 18 at the time. He threw a big frickin' firecracker near an outlet, then when the teacher asked what happened he said that the outlet blew up. The teacher believed him. In the 8th grade, my friend had gotten a firecracker, one with pull strings on both sides, during lunch. We walked into 5th period, sat down, and took attendance. Immediately after, my friend got up from his desk, made eye contact with the teacher, and walked up to the front of the class. The madman maintained eye contact and ripped that firecracker like a Beyblade that was talking mad shit. I'd never seen a teacher so dumbfounded in my life. Long ago, during my senior year, we had an advanced chemistry class, so only like 13 students. It was a test day, so we had a plan. Our valedictorian asks to go to the bathroom before the test. He leaves and sprints to the payphones, long ago, next to the cafeteria and calls the office. Says he is a police officer and needs to speak with our teacher immediately. The office calls him to the phone and he leaves the room. The rest of us bust out a grocery store birthday cake, put up birthday decorations and balloons, pass out party hats. The whole 9 yards. Teacher gets to the office, the val says blah, blah, blah. Mickey Mouse, and hangs up, and sprints back to the class. Teach gets back and we start singing happy birthday. He was like, but it's not my birthday. Needless to say we had our cake and ate it. Test was postponed until the next week. Threw a bully through a window and single-handedly ended zero tolerance on fighting in my school. I quote, "If I'm getting suspended for fighting I'm going to make it worth my while." Cut off his thumb in wood shop. And they couldn't find the thumb. It surfaced weeks later in the shop. Months later I found myself sitting next to the woodshop instructor at dinner on a field trip and got to hear the entire saga in full gory detail. While trying to eat dinner. One day in 7th grade the class clown was verbally saddened by the fact that our female math teacher didn't wear a dress again like he had asked. He promised her that tomorrow he will wear a dress as well so that she wouldn't be the only one wearing a dress. Well, next day comes around and she isn't in a dress. Clown comes in not wearing one either and is shocked that she didn't wear one. She responded with, "Neither did you." Then the fricking legend started stripping to reveal that under his normal clothes he was wearing his sister's dress. We all died laughing and he deadass wore it the rest of class. It was too uncomfortable for him though, so he changed back for the rest of the day. Fricking legend. I don't think the person who did it was ever caught, but during my junior year of high school, someone snuck in chickens. So there were a couple dozen chickens just roaming the halls and all the teachers were panicking. For some reason, the faculty treated them like rabid dogs. There's nothing funnier than seeing literal roadblocks set up around a chicken and 4 teachers all red-faced and pulling their own hair. I still have no clue who did it, but someone went around spraying mace or pepper spray or something into the ventilation shafts during lunch. My school had 2 lunch periods to accommodate our population. The first time was in the second lunch period during which I had class. I was walking in the stairwells to class when I started coughing, along with a lot of others. It felt like I'd swallowed sawdust. I was near the science labs, so I thought it might have been a chemical reaction gone wrong. The next day during lunch the upper forum was completely deserted. As I was going upstairs, my friends and I started noticing we felt the same, like there was sawdust in our throats. When we opened the door off the stairwell to the forum, the effect increased tenfold and a teacher ushered us back into the stairwell. We'd barely gotten to class when the entire school was evacuated. If the culprit was ever found, I never heard about it, and word spreads fast, so I'm guessing they got away with it. To the culprit, frick you for the throat pain, but thanks for the 15-minute evacuation so I didn't have to go to science class. A few people decided to do a senior prank. I was not involved with that prank, but I did another. They broke into the bus yard with old electric impacts and removed the nuts holding all of the benches to the studs in the floor. They glued the doors shut with silicone. Then, they deflated all of the school bus tires. The next morning all of the bus drivers showed up to flat tires, not punctured, just released through the valve. While someone was inflating the tires, someone else was cutting through the silicone. When they got all of the tires pumped back up, they went to leave and shortly into their drive all of the benches went flying every which way. There was no school that day. We had an English teacher in training with poor classroom management skills. She understood little of what was going on in front of her. To prove that point a friend of mine jumped from a classroom window, it was a good 6 feet to the ground, mid-class, and then casually walked through the schoolyard. Back into the school and then came back into the classroom. He told the teacher that he had gone to the bathroom. She nodded and just kept on with her lesson. One of my friends brought in a universal remote and tuned it to the TV in the lunch hall. This TV's original remote had long since been lost, so he had the only one. Instead of the news during lunch he would change it to sitcoms etc. The teachers were pretty clueless and kept flicking through dozens of channels only for him to immediately change back. They even started turning it off. He just turned it back on again. About a month of this and the teachers finally gave up. Nobody except our immediate friend group knew it was him doing this, but the entire school had whispers about this mystery man for ending the scourge that was the news channel. School just decided to give everyone iPads after a few years of letting physics class use them as their textbooks. At lunch everyone turned on AirDrop to share memes, which they weren't supposed to do. However, the teachers let it slide and figure it isn't worth punishing since everyone does it and nothing super inappropriate has been found yet, drugs, porn, etc. One kid in my younger sibling's class airdropped a meme about being the principal that wasn't inappropriate and used a photo of him when he was a math teacher earlier in his career. He found it on some archived page on the internet. From what I recall, the text used was more looking for laughs about how he used to teach math and now is the principal. Basically just some dumb thing that Stahl would have laughed off after telling him not to use school staff and airdropped memes. The kid who did this had never acted out in school. The worst he probably did was forget an assignment or two. He got detention for a whole week. The principal has a complex. No other student has gotten in as much trouble for airdropping things at the school. Someone took a shit in the urinal, and a kid called Robert picked it up with toilet paper. He went and opened the principal's office door so he got a good view of the kid wiping shit all over the walls. For senior prank, a group of kids dressed up in all black with masks. They ran down the main hall of the school with industrial buckets of cheap vegetable oil, pouring it everywhere. I mean everywhere, right before the bell rang for passing period. Kids were slipping and falling all over the place, spreading the oil even further throughout the school. It was so bad they ended up sending everyone home so they could clean up the mess. The school did an investigation, pulling camera footage from campus and interviewing students. Of course, the kids were bragging to friends about their accomplishments, so the suspects were pulled into the office. They didn't even need to interrogate them, they knew they all did it. How? They were all wearing the exact same shoes when they pulled it off. They were suspended for 5 days. School was pretty cool with the whole thing. In middle school, there was a kid in my grade that absolutely hated being at school, so he was always trying to find ways to make everyone else as miserable as him. My math teacher at the time was quite a pacifist and eventually resulted to ignoring his behavior. The student did not like that at all. So one day he brought in an electric razor and snuck up on her before class had started and everyone was walking in. All of a sudden everyone heard a shriek and we looked to see that the student with the razor in hand and hair on the ground. He basically gave her a reverse mohawk. Lucky for her, the rest of her hair seemed to cover it to a degree. That was the last day we saw that student. He got what he wanted though. However, I believe we heard that she pressed charges on him. My friend played Pornhub intro in class. Nobody knows what Pornhub is though because it's the Middle East. Put weed in the incense burner for our outdoor mass. Brought a whole new meaning to mass on the grass. There were these two mean girls who eventually got called out by one of the quiet kids during class. Their boyfriends were there as well and tried to fight him. He beat both of them up and dumped Gatorade on the girls. He walked out and never came back. It was around the last 2 weeks of school, so I guess nothing happened to him luckily. I actually had a crush him, but I was too shy and figured I wouldn't be his type. I hope he's doing well. I am going to have to throw my own kid under the bus here. My whole response to this situation is the Will Ferrell meme. I am not even mad, that is amazing. My kid and his best friend started the bubblegum cartel in middle school. Him and his best friend, they are both Italians. It seems you can't put Italians together without forming a criminal organization. Started a bubblegum MLM and got a good portion of the school involved. Kids on the bottom sold it, my guys provided and made the money. Apparently it got so involved, the middle school, on 3 separate occasions, had to have a town hall to inform the kids the bubblegum cartel has to stop. And that they don't know who the perpetrators are. But the kids selling gum needs to stop as they are doing all the work and selling gum while the perpetrators are making all the money and they are being taken advantage of. In all of middle school for both years, not a single student turned them in. And the school has no idea that my son and his BFF were the head of the cartel. I was wondering why he kept asking me to buy him gum wherever we went. I thought it was a phase. He then informed me it was free gum to sell. I couldn't stop laughing my ass off. My partner was incredulous that my son took advantage of me, but I couldn't get mad about it though I should have been. That night, for the first time in my life, I was floating on clouds and felt what peace actually feels like. Because I realized my kid is going to be okay. A few years after I graduated, the school was preparing to take their assessment tests, which rate the schools. Many people think these tests are a waste of time, but they are important to school administrators. So, the principal orders that some classes are interrupted, in order to make sure that all the kids have refreshers in some basic math and writing skills. A few kids in a US history honors class were angry. They resented the interruption, as the classes were preparing them for an independent AP exam that awarded college credit. In response, they decided to intentionally sabotage the assessment tests. Our school was in an upper middle class area, and regularly scored in low 90s, the top 10%. Then, suddenly, the school suddenly scored in the mid-low 80s. Turns out that 15 to 20 students out of 300 turning in absolute zeros can impact an average score. School administrators went berserk. Stories were circulated. Students were threatened. But nothing came of it. The students never confessed. The tests were anonymous. The school rules didn't forbid poor performance. It helped that the students were led by kids whose parents were well trained in protesting during the 1960s. Was a great scene. A little foggy on the details, but a few stink bombs went off at the same time in 3 separate parts of the building, but no one was ever caught or punished for it. Then they searched everyone before graduation that year to make sure it didn't happen again. I wonder though if it was something more like liquid ass or fart in a can, cause the school was convinced it was stink bombs, but they never found evidence of them. There was this guy who was almost universally liked in my high school. Did everything, AP classes, theater, football, track. His grades were good but he wasn't the valedictorian. That didn't stop him from getting up during the graduation ceremony and giving a speech like there was nothing strange about it. And they let him finish, too. Put someone's hair on fire with a cooking blowtorch, but the guy was cool with it so it's fine. Some girls made a confessions page for my grade at school. Some of the things people were posting got mean, so a guy I know hacked into the account and locked them out of it so they couldn't post any more mean things. Stuck a coin up his butt and then pooped it out. Placed it on the floor and the principal walked by and picked up the coin. One of the farm kids in my school brought a dump truck full of hay bales from his family farm and literally blocked off every single entrance and exit to the building with them. He did this really early in the morning and the school was in the middle of nowhere so nobody knew exactly who did it except me, his partner in crime. He canceled school for a day and a half. The reason why he did this? The principal was an absolute scumbag who hated kids. This kid's sister got in trouble for something she didn't do and the absolute asshole brought her to the principal's office and made her apologize for trashing the girls' bathroom to the entire school. Over the PA. When we were done with the escapade, we also filled the asshole's car with turkey feed through his open skylight the first day back while everyone was at a rally about the aforementioned hay baling. Everyone had an idea of who did it, but since nobody was around for it and the cameras weren't working, we got away with it. My friend was called to the office to face the same date as his sister anyway, but when the PA turned on, the absolute legend said this. "Hello everyone, I'm sorry that the school got turned into a barnyard, but on the bright side, I bet it made Mr. Principal feel at home. Anas's favorite meal is hay." The president of the student council had repeated his last year of high school 4 times. When he finally passed, his friends carried him through the hallways on a wooden cross, shirtless and rocking a rose crown. Not my high school, but our sister school. The seniors decided to put a dead deer in the cafeteria ceiling as a senior prank. Still not 100% sure why they thought this was a good idea. We had a strict bathroom policy at a high school I taught at. The office secretary implemented and enforced it like a tyrant. I personally had an issue with this and let my students go when they asked and would email her and tell her. I just couldn't deny this to my students. I knew there was the occasion where a kid was not truly in need of the restroom but wasn't willing to deny those who did, so I just documented and alerted the secretary when I sent a kid down. I mean, the kids were overflowing the toilets by stuffing things down them, smoking in the stalls and all kinds of stuff, so I understood we had an issue. But I still had a hard time denying them. Anyhow, it's a normal school day and my students are all busy working at their desks and I am sitting at mine with another teacher on the other side and we are calling students up individually to review their work and guide them to the next part of the 2-subject project. As we are in between students, we prepare and make notes for the next student and a male student comes up and leans against my desk. He says my name and the other teacher is talking and I am looking her way and the student says my name and then asks if he can go to the bathroom. No more than 15 seconds passes and the teacher stops talking to me and I turn towards the student and he is now making this face and urine is streaming across my desk. He asks if he can go to the bathroom again and I'm like, what the heck? Yes, of course. And following him down the hall I asked him why he did that and he said the previous class and teacher wouldn't let him go and I was taking too long to answer. I was in shock and pissed, no pun intended, because I would always let them go in my class and that didn't need to happen. It upset me that he had been holding it for long enough that he couldn't control himself and I made that well known to the secretary and the administration and no longer told the secretary or gave her any power over students and bathroom issues. He flooded my desk in the hallway. Poor kid. When I was a student teacher, some quiet kid was getting shit from a bully for like a week, so he waited till they were in music class and the bully was on the piano, facing the wall. Then very deliberately picked up a guitar, stalked across the room, and smashed it to pieces against the bully's head. All of this was caught on CCTV. That was one video that definitely got circulated among the faculty. I had a buddy that was known for knocking out more than one father-son combo during after-school fights. One where the parents ran up to break it up, he turned around and clocked dad. Another when he was fighting near a Main Street bus stop and the father happened to see the fight while driving by. Unfortunately, when the dad hopped out to stop it, the legend turned around and caught dad right on Main Street. Wild. If you liked the video, consider leaving a like, it helps a lot.